call the meeting to order for the Community Development Advisory Committee. The first order is to call. Start over here, to my right. State your name and your district.
Hi, Marcia Hop Newman, Cactus District.
Leslie Mealy, Yucca District School District Representative.
Lisa Baker, Beryl District.
Dorlisa Dvorak, Ocotillo District.
David Giles, Shaharo District.
Kirsten Flores, Yucca District.
Theodora Hackenberg, Beryl.
Tim Wayne, Toya.
Citizen comments. If citizens wish to speak on a matter concerning the Cdac that is not on the printed agenda, please complete a citizen's comment card provided to the designated staff member prior to the beginning of the meeting. Once your name is called by the chairperson, please proceed to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Please limit your comments to a period of 3 minutes or less. If there's no other citizens' comments, there's new business, and I'll transfer this on to Matt. It's the FY 2021 CDBG Physical Improvement, ESG, and Home Funding Request presentations. Matt.
Thank you, Chairperson Dvorak. Just want to also welcome, similar as we did last week, welcome everybody, and thank you for attending. Thank you for the committee for your service and your willingness to review all these applications that we have for grant funding for fiscal year 2021. A couple items of housekeeping items. I do have, as a reminder, in case any of the committee members are some additional documentation with supporting documents, I do have all of that here for reference. And also, if we could please limit, for those who are presenting tonight, to 4 minutes. We will be hearing from applicants for CDBG Physical Improvement, Home Investment Partnership, and Emergency Solutions Grant.
Okay, thank you. Matt, as you'll notice, as you spoke before, the lights will be lit up by Monica. You have 4 minutes. It'll start on green, then yellow, and then red when his time's up. And then we'll have it open to the rest of the committee to ask questions. First up is City of Glendale Parks, Recreation, and Special Events. ADA Park Improvements. We have our City of Glendale person.
Not.
No, there's no one here to represent them?
I guess not.
What about the City of Glendale Parks Recreation Special Events for Murphy Park irrigation improvements? Is that spokesperson here? If they just came in the door or not. If not, then we'll just move along to the next one. Circle back, Matt. Okay. I'm sorry. Yes, Monica. Is it on? Is it off? Is it on now?
Should be.
Am I not talking loud enough? There you go. Thank you. Okay. We may circle back. We'll see how time permits here that they show up. The third one then is Glencroft Center for Modern Aging, elevator repairs to senior housing facilities. The Glendale representative.
Madam Chairperson, ladies and gentlemen of the Advisory Committee, my name is John Winslow. I'm the President and CEO of Glencroft Center for Modern Aging. It's my pleasure to spend a few minutes with you talking to you about Glencroft and our application for a CDBG grant for elevator repairs. First of all, let me give you a little history for I know I got 4 minutes, so I'll speak fast, but not that fast. This year, the good news is that Glencroft is celebrating its 50th anniversary here in Glendale, and 50 years of serving seniors here in our community, and that's a long, long time. So we're celebrating our golden anniversary, if you will. That's the good news. The bad news is probably one of the reasons why we're here. We're a 50-year-old property that has, we have approximately 912 residents, 550 employees, and we serve seniors from all various areas of our society, from long-term care and skilled nursing to, we have a HUD program, a Section 8 housing. We have assisted living, and as well as we have casitas and apartments for low-income seniors. And we certainly, so we serve a wide spectrum and have served a wide spectrum of seniors in the Glendale area for 50 years. One of the great things about serving seniors from Glencroft being a not-for-profit 501c3 faith-based organization is over almost 65% of our residents are low income, either HUD certified or All-Tex in our licensed areas. Or low income, if they've been, we've had many residents that have been here for almost 35 years living in our community. So they're getting older, as is our property. And one of the things, the challenges that we do have in our community is by serving seniors of a lower income, we most of our funds are based upon taking care of people as opposed to a for-profit organization. Our money is dumped back into our community. One of the things that a 50-year-old property gives us is, I joke with my staff often, that there's 7 basements in Arizona and 4 of them are Glencroft. And our elevators, half of our elevators serve the basements. One of the things that we've done is to try to be proactive in how we take care of our seniors and those that come to us somewhat frail and somewhat infirm as the aging process takes effect. Our average age is 88 years of age that we serve of our almost 900 plus residents, is that I'm more likely to be run over by scooters in my property than I am by cars. But what happens is we've been trying very diligently to change the makeup of our property to make people better, to make them have a better quality of life. And one of that is by providing programs, not just for them, but also extending out to the community at large. And while they may get better and start walking, many times they're having issues that they come to us in walkers and wheelchairs and scooters. They got to get to basement. We're repurposing our basements because we didn't have money to build new buildings. So elevators becomes a huge problem. So they got to get down to our places that we're trying to provide assistance for them and provide them better quality of life. And our elevators, interestingly enough, our property is 50 years old this year. Our elevators are 41 years old, with the youngest being 34 years old. And we're finding that in the increasing usage of our residents, as we try to provide programs for them, that they have difficulty. They can't navigate skid stairs entirely, so elevators become hugely important. The challenge with elevators is that when their average age of 41 years of age, we can't find parts. The issue is the last time an elevator went down, we had to cart our residents that were working out, carrying up the stairs from the elevators, and it took us 3 weeks to find parts in the country. So we want to take advantage of the opportunity. Certainly we replace, when you have 11 elevators, we try to replace them as quick as we can when there's a problem, but we want to get ahead of the curve if we can. So that's our challenge and that's our opportunity, and I do thank you for this time to make this presentation, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Do any of the committee members have any questions, comments? I agree.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up is Habitat for Humanity Central Arizona Emergency Home Repair.
Good evening. My name is Lindsay Calland with Habitat for Humanity Central Arizona. I'm the Director of Grants, Compliance, and Procurement. This application for CDBG funding in $425,000 would be used for the Emergency Home Repair Program. Habitat has administered this program for the City of Glendale for the past 8 years, and in that time we've served just about over 1,150 residents more than, and we continue to serve them. Habitat itself as an organization, we're actually celebrating our 35th year in the Valley, and so we're excited to continue this partnership with the city. For this application, the money would go towards approximately 110 emergency home repairs, and those are repairs that affect life and safety for low-income residents within the city of Glendale. And an additional 5 would be the ADA or mobility-type repairs to help homeowners who are experiencing some mobility challenges in their homes, such as roll-in showers or widening doorways. Habitat, I feel like we've been so successful with this program, not only because of our partnership with the city, but also because Habitat, we have our own contractor's license license as a KB2 general residential contractor. We have our plumbing license, and so we're able to do a lot of work in-house rather than having to sub it out. And we have just a very knowledgeable staff that is always looking to help the City of Glendale residents. On the application, I wanted to address the comments. On the budget narrative, there was a typo where I added an extra $500 in there, so that is correct. That was a typo. There was another question about the full agency budget not being provided. The budget provided in the application is a program budget. This program is fully funded by the CDBG funding. And then again, the product measure goal, another typo there. So we are aiming for 110 emergency home repair jobs and then 5 ADA. So that would be a total of 115 jobs we would look to complete and households to serve. Approximately 4 people per household is just a general number. It's hard to say how many people will be in those homes. And then the last comment I wanted to make was about the funding levels. So we're currently using fiscal year 18-19 funding. To date, we've used $138,000, so we still have a balance of $286,000. We do have funding for fiscal year 19-20, but we don't have that contract yet, which is why we are using the 18-19 funding. So we've learned how to manage the money based on when it's going to become available to us, and always serving the emergencies as they come to us. But yes, thank you for your time.
Well, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Lisa? I saw you have questions.
I'm just curious, that's a large balance of funding from 18-19, even with the updated numbers you just gave us, and then still, I understand that you don't have the 19-20 funding, but is there not a lot of projects come along? I mean,
No,
that's
so-
a lot of money to still have left over, and I understand that you get funding late because of how the process goes. But
Right. So that 18-19 funding was issued to us mid-November 2018. So we would have started using it. I believe we started using that contract actively February of 19. And so we've had a little bit of a slowdown as of recently, but I would say a lot of it has been picking up in terms of the size of projects we've been conducting, because I know a couple of the other cities' programs, including the roofing. Traditionally, emergency home repair doesn't include roofing, and there's a separate city program for that. We have taken on a couple roofing jobs at the direction of city staff, and so we are seeing some larger jobs come along. So it's just, I would say that large balance, it seems to have just been a slower year, and again, based on when we could start using the funding. We always use our contracts up, and so sometimes we've had to have gap funding, but it does look a little larger than normal, and I would just say it's based on the types of repairs we've seen.
okay, thank you.
Of course.
Any other comments, questions?
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Valley Life Group Home Renovations.
Hello, my name is Ann Polensky, and I am the grant writer for Valley Life. And we appreciate all the support you've given to us in the past. Valley Life is a 73-year-old agency serving individuals with developmental and physical disabilities. We have a total of 9 group homes in Glendale, housing 48 members. And the house that we're looking for some help on this year is at 16801 North 47th Avenue. It's a group home serving 4 men with developmental disabilities, one of whom is visually impaired, and another one who is now becoming very unsteady and unbalanced. So there are 4 men in this home. The interior of the house is very old, and it needs upgrading to bring it to today's standards. The kitchens and bathrooms are dated and in very poor repair. They need to be gutted and reinstalled. The bathroom doors need to be widened so that they meet ADA standards. The toilets and sinks, the whole bathrooms need to be replaced. Shower stalls need to be reconfigured to accommodate walkers and wheelchairs. The kitchen is also very old. The countertops and cabinets, as well as the appliances, all need to be replaced. The counters are cracked and chipping, and they can't be kept as clean as they should be. The cabinet doors are at risk of falling off. The floors throughout the home are worn and cracked. creating tripping hazards. The interior hallways are dark and also hazardous. We'd like to add a couple skylights to make the interior of the home a little more light and brighter. The layout of the house is not conducive to constant supervision that our members need, so that requires the removal of a couple walls in the kitchen so that our staff is able to have a direct visual line to be able to see our members at all times. The interior and exterior of the home need painting. In addition, there's a decorative facade in the front that has become a nesting place for pigeons, and that's become an ongoing problem for us. Finally, we feel that it's our responsibility as good neighbors to maintain the appearance of our house to the level of the other homes on the street. The house, as I said, has 4 individuals living in there. We go to great efforts to fulfill our mission of enhancing the quality of life for our members. This includes the dignity of having a nice place to live. It is essential that the surroundings in our home not only be physically nice, but they also be safe. And over the years, Glendale has been very generous to us in helping us support the group homes that we have in the city, and we hope you'll continue to do so. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
Thank you.
And thank you.
Actually, I'm sorry, I'd like to ask a question of you.
Oh,
Just one moment. I had a couple of questions. In your budget, I didn't see that there were any other funds besides City of Glendale funds included. Is that the case, or can you?
We were not required for a match on that.
Okay.
And I actually checked that before I came today to see if we're required to have a match, and we were not.
No, there is no match
Right.
required for CDBG funds. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
thank you. Next up is a new leaf, Faith House ESG.
I'm going to try to be brief and fast so I don't have a coughing fit here. So, Mrs. Chair, members of the committee, it's good to see most of you again since last week and those new faces that are here. Again, my name is Rosalie Hernandez, and I'm the program manager at a New Leaves Faith House Crisis Shelter for Women and Children located here in Glendale. And so today I'll just provide a quick refresher on what I spoke about last week in Faith House continuing to provide safety, shelter, and services here in the Glendale community. We currently have 52 emergency beds, and 8 of those beds are for single women only. The women and our children can stay up to 120 days while they receive advocacy, case management, and workforce development. We've maintained our partnerships here with the local charities, nonprofits, and government agencies in order to continue to receive our referrals for immediate shelter needs, and we will continue to do that. So this year, with the funding that we're requesting for ESG, they'll be used for operating expenses to include utilities and maintenance, client assistance and supplies. And again, during my presentation last week, I talked about our excitement and how our program will be growing this year and expanding our emergency beds from 52 to 68. And this funding will assist us in keeping and maintaining a safe environment to provide shelter and services, which is obviously very vital to the work that we do. So on behalf of Faith House and A New Leaf, again, I'd like to just express our thanks for all the support that we have received over the years, and we would love to continue to work together in serving those in crisis. So if you have any other programmatic questions for me this time, I'd be happy to entertain those.
Thank you.
I have a question. Has the audit deficiency been, I mean to make you choke, has the audit deficiency been resolved?
Yes,
Are there
again,
problems?
as last week it was mentioned by our finance director that it all has been worked out and figured out as far as those audits are concerned.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
In question number 13, you gave area-wide information, and one of the things that you're mentioning here is the human trafficking
Your turn.
So do you get a lot of girls coming in from the human trafficking?
So yes, we do serve victims and survivors of sex trafficking as well as labor trafficking. The referrals that I get for Faith House specifically usually come from the HEAT team, which is through the Phoenix Police Department. It used to be called VICE. It's now HEAT. And so I work with that advocate. So if they're out on the streets doing outreach, or if a survivor reaches out to them and say they're ready to leave the life, they'll contact me if I have space available, and we'll get them into shelter. I also do take most of my referrals from also the IRC, the International Rescue Committee, and they do make referrals to us specifically regarding that. So yes, some will call the SAFE DVS hotline for shelter, and they know that we do serve that population, and we also can get them from there as well. So yeah, we have a different range of partners that we work with regards to serving trafficking victims.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, the other new life that's representing the program of rapid rehousing. Are you guys, okay.
No, I'm not. I don't know if that program is still going for this funding. They're not here today, or that program manager isn't, so.
Yeah, I had a discussion with the CFO this morning, and she indicated to me that that grant request has been pulled, so.
So we can, are you telling us that then this can be ignored?
Right, we're not going forward with the rapid rehousing funding this year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Casa, Central Arizona Shelter Services, Emergency Shelter Services.
Good evening. Nice to see you again. My name is Lisa Glow. I'm the CEO of Central Arizona Shelter Services, and with me tonight is Mary Glennon, our new program director. She's been with CAS for 8 years, and she'll be speaking the latter half of the presentation. And tonight we're asking for your support for our downtown Glendale. That we've had the downtown shelter for 35 years, and we serve Glendale residents annually, and we appreciate your support through the years. We're asking for $45,000 to shelter and serve at least 175 Glendale residents who are experiencing homelessness, and this represents about 24% of the total cost for serving these individuals. They represent about 5% of our overall clients that we serve, the 4,300 that we serve downtown. Last year, Casa's single adult shelter served 208 Glendale residents, so probably the number we're projecting is low, and with 7,665 bed nights and supportive services as well, housing and case management, and then wraparound services. We've exceeded our goals for the last 2 fiscal years and the numbers we've projected and then served, and that should be no surprise because we're seeing a rise in homelessness throughout the valley. The downtown shelter has 470 beds, 350 for men and 120 for women. In addition to safe shelter, we provide hygiene items, access to clean clothing, showers, case management services, housing assistance, etc. Time sure flies. I want to make sure I leave enough for Mary. There's a lot of new things we're doing at the shelter. What I want to tell you is we're renovating the shelter. The intake area, the first phase will be done on January 20th, next week. We started our senior program, and I mentioned that last week, can answer questions. We're starting a pilot, a hospital drop-off program. We have 8 beds for men, funded by Valley Wise. We're hoping also to have an additional 6 beds for women because there's a huge need for people who need to know they have a bed to go to when they're being released from the hospital. They don't qualify for medical care. And we're hoping to be able to add more beds downtown because we're turning about 500 people away monthly. In Glendale, we hired a West Valley housing navigator last year, currently located in 3 CAP offices, including Glendale. She is engaging 10 clients a week from Glendale, providing housing leads and linkages to resources, including linkages to our rental assistance program and our rapid rehousing program. And last week you heard about the Glendale Center that we're targeting to open this spring. That will also be a new resource with other partners who are in the community who will join us in collaboration, such as CBI, Phoenix Rescue, St. Joseph the Worker, Homeless ID, and others who are wanting to partner with us. And I'll turn it over to Mary.
So in the last 2 years, with the support of our new CEO and new leadership team, we've really worked on expanding and adding new resources for our clients to try to provide more comprehensive services. So as Lisa said, specialized case management for youth, seniors, veterans, behavioral health. We've also started a partnership with Circle the City. They provide medical care 5 days a week in the evening for our clients, so it's more accessible for them. We have a rental assistance program that we developed over 4 years ago, and we're just funded for an additional 2 years to help people move quickly into housing and end their homelessness faster, as well as reconnecting them with family. And we started doing eviction prevention recently as well. And the next year, we're looking at getting even more targeted resources to help our clients, including more staff and strategic partnerships to bring more services to our clients. And we're just trying to work smarter and harder and collaborate more with people to help our clients end their homelessness as fast as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from the committee? Any? Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Next up is Maggie's Place, the Michael House.
Hey, good evening. I'm Julie Karlberg, Chief Program Officer for Maggie's Place. So, as you guys, I'm sure, are very aware, in 2019, the point-in-time homeless count for the city of Glendale was 243 persons, which was a 33% or 46 households increase, and a lot of those reported being homeless for the first time. So we know at Maggie's Place that housing is really the foundation for health and well-being. And so we provide life-changing programs and services for pregnant women. They can enter at any point in their pregnancy, and they can stay until the baby is 1 year old. So our Michael House is one of our 4 shelters throughout the valley that provides that type of housing. We also have another shelter in Phoenix. If women are staying with us and reunifying with their other children in DCS custody, we can transfer them to that facility. And then most recently, we opened a affordable housing facility as sort of a next step when they're exiting, leaving our facility. They can go to our affordable housing facility if space is available. We're the only shelter where women can enter at any point in their pregnancy, and we're the only one in Maricopa County providing services for pregnant women who are participating in medical assisted treatment. So we have a partnership with Community Medical Services as a result of the rise in opioid substance use and abuse that we've seen. 61% of our clients self-report opioid substance addiction. And so as a result, we worked really hard in this past year to partner with Community Medical and to be able to house women that are participating in medical assisted treatment, as well as partnering with Hush by Nursery for babies that may be withdrawing from neonatal abstinence syndrome. So when women come to the Michael House, they are welcomed with a warm and welcoming environment. This is a lot related to our service model, and so we have AmeriCorps staff. We're funded through the Governor's Office of Youth, Faith, and Family, and we have live-in staff at the Michael House and all of our shelter locations, and those mentors really provide a 24/7 ability for us to really work on improving core life skills, reducing stress, and really building good relationships. They also provide a lot of transportation to services, so they would be driving clients and their newborns to doctor's appointments, to court appointments, to interviews, and really helping with a lot of transportation needs. And then we provide a lot of other ongoing services, not only shelter, transportation, food, but we also have a partnership. We offer in-house counseling with Touchstone Behavioral Health. We have family coaching as a requirement. We do evidence-based PPP parenting education for our women, both individual and classes. And then we do a lot of job, GED training, and a lot of different wellness things. When women exit the Michael House and any of our other shelters, they can still receive all other services services except housing at our Family Success Center located in Central Phoenix. So we really provide for a lifetime. And so that really provides a way for them to be able to move on in self-sufficiency, but still receive a lot of other supportive services. And so we were asking $30,000 in operating costs that go to staff, communication costs, so that would be like home phone for the moms, for the staff, internet services, cell phones, so we have emergency cell phones that the women can call 24/7, utilities, and then transportation, so vehicles and vehicle insurance.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I may have missed this. There's no other questions.
Yeah.
How long are they usually there?
So our average length of stay is about 5.5 months.
And then after that time, they're not just let out to the streets, obviously. They're just, here we go.
They can stay until the baby's 1 year old, but they do mandatory family coaching, so it's case management, every other week. And so part of what they're working on during that time with their family coach is their exit plan. And so whether it's budgeting and saving money for an apartment, or whether it's next step transitional housing in one of our other locations or in another one.
So the idea is to get them stabilized in a home, permanent. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
How do the clients come to you? How do they know about your?
So we have an intake line that we answer 20 hours a week, and you can find information on our website, or we work with a lot of agencies to have a mutual referral process. We never have a problem. We actually have we know that we turn down on average 70 women a week who qualify for our services.
No other questions? Thank you so much.
Not sure about this. How many transitional units do you have? So when a woman leaves, let's say 5 months, whatever, how many transition units do you have altogether? I'm just kind of interested.
We would have 16 different units available. So there would be 35 women living with us at any time in our 4 shelters, and then those units. But they might not necessarily want to live in one of our transitional units.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering what the numbers were on units. Thank you.
Thinking about it. Sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time and support.
Next up is the Phoenix Rescue Mission Street Outreach. 3 of you. 4 minutes. That's going to be a challenge. We love seeing all these people here. It's okay.
Hello, my name is Jasani Goodman, and I'm with the Phoenix Rescue Mission, and I just wanted to come and share with you about our street outreach program. But first of all, we just wanted to let you know that our program is really here to address the homeless issue that you all have here. We have 3 major individuals that we see on the street, and those are the will-nots, the have-nots, and the can-nots. And so with the will-nots, those are individuals who usually are services resistant. So we believe in continuous engagement. We believe in meeting the individuals where they're at. Sometimes it can take multiple contacts, multiple attempts to build rapport with those individuals in order to be able to get them and encourage them to do something different with their lives. With the have-nots, those are individuals who might not know what resources are out there. So through our street outreach, case management, navigation, and outreach, we're able to reach those individuals and let them know what type of services are available to them. And then there's the cannots, and those are individuals who maybe are dealing with some sort of mental health issue or disability, and so therefore doing a little bit more of some navigation, what we like to think of as a little bit more of some hand-holding. So really walking alongside the person who is experiencing homelessness and helping them through that process. We also are very focused on our solutions being people-focused. We don't just want to get people out of their homeless situations, but we really want that individual to take a part of the solution, and that basically looks like them talking to us, sitting down, coming up with a plan, because we want to put healthy people and healthy housing. So if we could treat the individual and speak to them and find what it is that caused their homelessness to begin with, we're not only interested in ending their homelessness, but we're interested in ending the cycle of homelessness for that person and actually allowing them to experience longevity in their housing plan. What some of the things that we do, and part of that is we, through these funds, we're not only able to offer staff, these are peer certified staff who are well trained in motivational interviewing, crisis intervention, and an array of different types of training in order to be prepared for this type of work. But we also use these funds for ID vouchers so that way we can break down those barriers of what they need in order to be able to get housing or into a program or some sort of solution, as well as bus passes, as well as motel vouchers to place people in the meantime while we're waiting for an opening to arise for that individual, as well as any type of diversion fund. So if anybody finds themselves stranded here, as long as we have a confirmed receiving party, we are actually able to put that individual on a bus or a flight or whatever that may look like for that individual so that they can go home and actually end that homelessness or go to a place where they're able to obtain affordable housing. We also like to emphasize our partnerships as well. Our partnerships are huge because we know that we alone can't conquer it all. So, to work collectively with others is very important to us. So we really want to be able to work collectively with parks, with PD, the CAT team, as well as other partners like a New Leaf, CAS, CBI, an array of others. We receive referrals from cities. We also receive referrals from businesses and from the community as well. So anybody who's really experiencing an issue in your city, we want to be able to address that. And as well as addressing the concern on this application, we are now well staffed, and so therefore we are able to pay down those costs. And so we are prepared now versus, not being prepared in the past. We're definitely prepared now with staff in order to be able to meet the expectations of this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? No one has a question. I only have one word, the comments where they show significant deficiencies in material weaknesses. Figured you were there for a reason.
Yeah. So those were on programs that we receive USDA product for. So those are USDA dings on our single audit. I can't remember which one, material weakness or significant deficiency. We had the audit revised so that whichever one was worse, it got kicked down to the lesser one. And it really was about procedure at our food bank over at Hope for Hunger for verifying that people are income eligible, a challenge that we especially experienced when we received a new database that tracked things differently at the food bank than it did before. So now that we've adjusted to the new database and we've got our procedures updated to match, we believe we've addressed those issues.
Okay, thank you for letting us know.
Of course.
Personal comment, I've eaten at the Mission Possible Cafe, and it's improved since last year, so good job.
Thank you for saying that. It's improved dramatically.
Yes. Well, anyone gets a chance, it's a very good cause. I don't know if anyone knows about that, so it's a very good place to go downtown to and be able to support the program, and as well as be fed, so thank you for that service.
Of course.
Any other questions, comments?
I have a question. Am I correct that folks can, for example, if I'm driving through the city and I see someone who apparently is in distress, like last year I saw an elderly woman at night on a bench with her belongings. Is it correct that citizens can call the Phoenix Rescue Mission?
Yes, that is correct. We will receive referrals from anyone. So we will receive referrals from not just the city who might call us with a concern, but we will also receive any type of referral from a business or just a concerned citizen. We do have a hotline where individuals can either call the hotline, they will receive a voicemail, and then they can leave a detailed description of what they saw, or a voicemail, and then that way we can go ahead and respond to that referral.
I hope that gets appropriately advertised. I think that's a wonderful, wonderful service that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is the the Streetlight USA Shelter Utilities.
All right, try not to. All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Jennifer Carr. I'm the grant manager for Streetlight USA. We are a shelter for adolescent females who have been sex trafficked and also those who've survived significant trauma. First of all, in order to kind of understand what we do, I'm going to tell you a little bit about a piece of trafficking that people don't generally talk about, and that's that traffickers, their main goal is to keep their property coming back. They do that by drugs, of course, because if the girls know, and boys, if the girls and boys know that there's somebody that has what they need, they'll come back to them. But they also do it through the trauma itself. So they withhold food, they withhold sleep, they withhold all the basic necessities, and it actually rewires the brains of the sex trafficking victims so that they are not exactly capable of going back into a society that's not built for them. Schools aren't built to handle children who suffer that kind of trauma, but Streetlight USA is. We have a program in place to try to create a new baseline for them, to try to bring them back to a point in recovery where they can actually build a foundation and move past what they've gone through. One of the things we have on campus, we do have an academic program with trained trauma specialists who are able to work closely with the girls to make sure that if they do go into a panic attack or if they have a situation like that, they're able to bring them back and focus them back on education. A lot of these girls have had interrupted educations for various reasons, and getting them to a place where they can learn is a big deal. We've already had 2 graduates, one with a diploma, one with a GED. Both have gone on to college courses, which is an incredible it's an incredible accomplishment considering we've only had the academic program open for about a year and a half. We have case management, we have different partners with therapy, we have a lot of partnerships in the community. We do also work with the HEAT task force. And we just opened another program on site for higher level of care residents who maybe aren't as stabilized. We are asking for $25,000 for utilities so that we can put those extra dollars back into working with the residents. One other thing that I completely forgot to mention, we do have actually life skills training, and we just started a partnership with Goodwill, where we are using their vocational training courses so that the residents are able to move into the next phase of their lives as well. So we think that being able to prepare them from job readiness is a very significant part of making sure they're able to take part in the community as a whole. We are implementing a Safe Jobs program with partners in the community who are able to give them positions so that they're able to continue to build their resume while still having somebody to support them who understands their past and what they've been through. I think that's it. Are there any questions?
Good. Thank you very much. Any questions, comments?
Yes.
So you mentioned and boys. So do you have a program for boys too?
We do not on site at the moment. Right now, the UN determined that it's about an 85-15% split between males and females. Right now, we're focusing primarily on the females. Our long-term goals are definitely to also have males. We do have partnerships with organizations that have sex trafficking programs for males, but that's definitely an underrepresented group in the community as a whole.
Any other questions? Thank you very much for your time. Next up is Sojourner Center, Utilities for Emergency Shelter.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here again. Thank you for giving Sojourner Center the opportunity to request funds from the City of Glendale to support utility costs for the emergency shelter and transitional housing units. Since 1977, Sojourner Center has served the residents of Maricopa County. To date, we've worked with nearly 60,000 individuals to overcome the impact of domestic violence. Sojourner Center also serves victims of domestic and sexual violence from all over the nation, as well as the occasional participant from out of our country. Last year in our crisis shelter, we served 60 unduplicated Glendale residents, of which 32 were children. And over the last 5 years, we've served 220 unduplicated adults and 60 unduplicated children from Glendale, who benefited from our crisis shelter, child development center, lay legal advocacy, transitional housing, workforce development, and mobile outreach. Excuse me. Sojourner Center strives to continue to be a low to no barrier access shelter, providing comprehensive domestic violence services to individuals who want to be safe and ultimately learn to live life again without violence. Our programs include case management, workforce development, traumatic brain injury assessment and treatment, medical support, licensed child care, domestic and sexual violence education, transitional housing, a full-service pet companion shelter, a resource center that equips those we serve with everything they need to start their lives over. Sojourner Center wouldn't be able to do what we do without all of the support we receive from the community. All of our municipal partners add a unique richness to the culture served at Sojourner Center, and it is an honor to be able to present this request to you for resources that will support utility costs at our crisis shelter and transitional housing programs. Thank you for your valuable time and consideration.
Thank you. Are there any questions from any committee members? Quiet group tonight. Thank you so much.
Have a good evening.
You too. Yeah. Now I think it's time we'll take a break before we start with the next group. And it shouldn't take long after that. So I appreciate about a 20-minute break. It's 4:50 now, so we'll come back at 5:20. 5:10. 5:10. Thank you.
Did you get your awesome?
I hope you like it. Forgot.
Time to reconvene for our next presentations for the home grants. Next up is the Casa de Amigos Affordable Housing, Montebello Apartments. Thank you for your patience for waiting for us.
I do have some handouts for.
Oh, cool.
Thank you. Does pass them
Need what? Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Make sure Matt gets one. Make sure you get one.
Madam Chair and fellow committee members, my name is Stephen Hernandez. I'm with the Cesar Chavez Foundation. I'm the Director of Business Development. And just to give you a quick background on the foundation was founded by Cesar Chavez, who's the civil and labor rights activist. As part of, after forming the union for the farm workers, he established some social enterprises consisting of education, radio, and development for the farm workers to have adequate housing. Currently, the housing department of the foundation operates in four states, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and California, and we have approximately about 5,000 units. We're here today to request your support for $500,000 to provide 80 units of affordable workforce housing, with 20% of those units being as a veteran preference. Just some background on we've been on this development. In 2010, the foundation partnered with the city to provide senior housing with two programs, one program being the HUD 202 program and the other program being the NSP 1 funds. In 2011-12, the HUD 202 program dissolved, and because of the required rents of being at 50% of the area median income and below, it was really difficult for us to find alternate means of financing. Our main avenue of trying to do financing now is the Arizona Department of Housing using the low-income housing tax credits. And the rules have changed to make this project advantageous to submit for their 9% of low-income housing tax credits, which is going to be predominantly about 70 to 75% of the total project cost. So what we're trying to do is, after reviewing all the other competitors, we thought that this project would be advantageous to capitalize and leverage state and federal funds into the city of Glendale to provide affordable housing for the community, and thus also fulfilling our commitment and our promises that we made to the city in providing affordable housing for the community. So currently, we're proposing to do 80 units, which is a change from the application that you see in front of you, which was 88 units. And the changes, after we consulted with the Design Review Committee and Planning and some key stakeholders at the city, we decided to modify it to equate for some, or to include some amenities for the community, which include like community room, tot lot, CSIP Weather Learning Center, which is our educational base for the after-school program, and also like a veteran memorial, which the community, talking to the key stakeholder, they wanted a veteran memorial for the community at large. Additionally, we modified the units to include some one-bedrooms to provide for, to have a senior component in there. But ultimately, it comes down to, with your investment and your support, we could, about 2% of the total project cost, we could bring in and leverage approximately $19 million of federal funding into the development, and also to make this project development complete. Now, there are some, it's going to require a lengthy process and the competitive nature, because we're competing with the Phoenix, the Mesas, the Scottsdales to bring this funding into the city. But we have to do an amendment to the existing NSP agreement that we have for the prior development. And then if funding is not, if we do not are awarded the 9% funding, the alternate means we'll try to do is to see if we could apply for a bond program, which is not as competitive, but requires more leveraging and maybe increased rents that we have today. And just so you know, the applicant says that it's Casa de Amigos on the resources and the leveraging, but Casa de Amigos is an affiliate of the Cesar Chavez Foundation, and the Cesar Foundation will be providing all the guarantees to make sure the project is complete and financially feasible. Pending any questions.
Thank you so much. Questions? It's looking.
So you already own the land, or you already own the property?
Correct.
Okay.
And it's in partnership with the city using the NSP funding. So the city already included an investment of approximately 1.2, which you see there on the right side under funding, city NSP, about $1.287 million.
Okay.
Did I hear right? You said you've dropped it from 88 units to 80?
Yes, ma'am. And that's to account for the additional community amenities of the tot lot, Zen garden, and a community educational gardening to help the students and the kids, get involved with the green.
So when you say 80 units, and you talked about one bedrooms, but then you talk about children, so those will be 2 and 3 bedrooms as well?
Yes, ma'am.
So what does that make up? How many 1 bedrooms, 2 and 3? Do you have that?
So underneath the rendering on the left side of the document, you have
There's the
42 bedrooms and 36 3-bedrooms, and the square footages are listed right next to them.
Right, so those households will be more than 80 people. It will be...
Yes, approximately about 300 total or more.
Okay, very good, thank you. Any other questions? Marcia? Questions? Okay, I think we're good. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you for waiting. Next up is our Habitat for Humanity Central Arizona Affordable Housing.
Hello again. So I'm Lindsay with Habitat for Humanity, Central Arizona. This application is for home funds for their affordable housing activities. So Habitat for Humanity, Central Arizona, we've been in the Valley building affordable housing for the past 35 years. And for the past 14 years, we've partnered with the city of Glendale. And approximately 40% of the houses that Habitat has constructed through the Valley have been in the city of Glendale and through these partnerships. So we're very thankful for the support of the city, for the number of families we've been able to help find stable housing in our community. So our affordable housing, this is a home ownership program. Families are low income, less than 80% of the area median income. They put in 400 hours of sweat equity into building their own home so that they have that skin in the game component. They're also going through financial education courses and learning about maintenance and those sorts of things that come with home ownership, and they learn about budgeting. So we're helping create stable homeowners who are going to be able to build the equity and stay in their house for as long as they can. Also, our housing plans, we've recently been updating through the last year or so to make them more livable for life. And the idea is that the houses are ready to age in place. And so we have backing ready for grab bars in the shower. All doorways are wide enough to allow for wheelchairs. We've updated our floor plans, and so we're just thinking of beyond just being affordable housing, we want to make sure that families can age safely in these homes and eliminate any of those hazards that we've started seeing in some of our other older housing stock. This application, we are asking for funding $255,000 so we could build 3 new homes. I wanted to address the comments that we had on the application as well. One of the big questions is, of course, about the previous funding. So we are currently using 18-19 funding, and that was delayed due to environmental review process. So we had 3 properties identified and ready to go on our build calendar, and based on the delays with environmental, we just had to move forward without the city funding, and so that we've identified additional properties that we're also waiting for environmental reviews on. So hopefully we will be constructing, one will be a renovation that we're going to begin in this spring, starting in the next month or so, and then we have 3 additional properties that will finish out the 18-19 contract, and then also our 19-20 contract, which hasn't been awarded or we haven't received yet, but we do have the property identified to use those funds. So we're ready to go to spend all our funds as long as we can get the environmentals to come through. But always we're so thankful for our partnership with the city of Glendale and the number of opportunities you've provided to members of the community. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Thank you so much. Calling the City of Glendale Housing Authority. Tenant-based rental assistance.
And I'd just like to make a note for the committee. This particular activity, I believe, we have 2 applications for this activity, and I believe this is the first time that this type of activity proposal has come forward to Cdac.
Say it again.
There are 2 applications for this activity, tenant-based rental assistance, and just as a point of clarification, I believe this is the first time we have received applications for tenant-based rental assistance.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you, or the members of the committee, rather. Thank you for the time to allow me to come and speak to you. My name is Donald Paredes, and I'm the Housing Administrator for the City of Glendale Housing Authority. Before I start, I want to thank you really for your time and your attention, not just here today, but for your volunteer hours that you work. I'm sure it's tirelessly looking at all those documents that you have to look at, reviewing all the things you have to review. But what I admire most about you is that you work with the city's most vulnerable populations. And so I just want to thank you for doing that. I want to also thank you for your continued support of the Housing Authority and its operations. We've worked together in several other ventures, and so let me get into why we're here today. We, as a Housing Authority, run 2 main projects or programs. One of them is called the Public Housing Program. The other one is the Housing Choice Voucher Program. The public housing program is properties that look like apartments, and they're public housing, and the Housing Authority owns and manages those properties. We have 155 or so of those, and we are 100% maxed. We are serving as many people as we can serve in those properties. The other program is the Housing Choice Voucher Program. And we have a baseline, that the government calls it a baseline, of 154 vouchers, families that we can serve. And through our portability, we have an additional 350 that we serve. So we serve about 1,400 households just here in Glendale alone. Even though we serve those many families, we've recognized, not just through the point in time count that has tripled over the last 3 to 4 years, but also the number of calls that we receive for additional assistance. And so we would like to apply for the TBRA, that's a tenant-based rental assistance grant. What that would allow us to do is to assist additional 25 families with securing housing. These families, we're going to earmark them for either homeless or near homeless, those that are most vulnerable in our community. In our most recent audit, there was no findings, and there hasn't been for several years. HUD has rated us a high performer the past at least 7 years, perhaps even longer. There are other cities who we're modeling our program after. The Housing Authority runs a TBRA program in the city of Phoenix, Chandler, Tempe, and Mesa, and those are the only ones that I checked, and they do manage those programs. We're asking for the funds so that we can help those families who can't really help themselves or are in situations where they found themselves down and out. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So my understanding is then you would be able to use these funds with people in existing apartments other than public housing. So you would make an agreement with the landlord that they would agree to this amount of rent or rental assistance for those people.
Yes, ma'am. It'll run exactly or very similar to the Housing Choice Voucher Program that is currently federally funded. We use about $14 million. Our total budget is about $14 million per year. The difference is here is HUD has different definitions of homelessness. Under the Housing Choice Voucher and the Public Housing Program, they do not allow for near homelessness. However, this program would allow us to address that.
Okay.
Where would you get these referrals from then?
We would like to receive our referrals from other homeless providers who cannot help the for such as we've made contact with Phoenix Rescue Mission, we talked to Family Promise, and other like-minded agencies.
And of course, it's income-based as well?
It would be.
Right. And how long do they usually are in the program then?
This would be a 2-year program.
For an individual or
For
family?
an individual family, yes, ma'am.
Right. Only because the math is saying 25 people for that amount of money.
Yes, ma'am.
Unless they didn't need that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Lisa?
And then, can I ask another question?
Sure.
And then after that 2 years, what then happens?
Well, our program is going to be designed in order to help the family become more self-sufficient. So one of 3 options. Number 1, they'll become self-sufficient and with our assistance. Number 2, if we can renew this grant, they'll stay on as another 2 years. Or number 3, which would we prefer, the City of Phoenix has modeled their program where these particular families, if they haven't found housing, that they convert over and are on the public housing and or Section 8 waiting list. And so maybe we can transfer them into a more permanent if that's what they need.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a question. So if it goes to option number 3, where they get converted to the Section 8, the federal program, how does that affect? They get moved like to the top of the waiting list? Or, I mean, what sort of priority would these people have over people who have already been waiting for housing?
Yes, the way that Phoenix does it, they earmark certain number of vouchers for this particular program. And so, yes, they would actually, they would be able to apply when other people would not have that ability to apply because they're already in that program and receiving some type of assistance, so that way they're not just back out on the street.
Okay, and so if they're, so let's say the grant does get renewed, the people that have been on for the 2 years, would they just continue on the same program, or is there, or is this program designed to get them in and then roll them over into the federal program, or would they, let's say we get this grant renewed for 10 years, people would be able to stay on that for 10 years, or is there some way, is there a plan or a desire to roll them over into the federal program and to be able to intake people into this program, if that makes sense? I don't know if I'm explaining
Yes,
it well.
it makes sense, and yes, really what it's going to be designed for is the triage. Is this family, number one, are they going to be self-sustainable? Do they have the ability? Maybe they just don't have the ability, and so therefore they would need long-term federal assistance in housing. If not, it's going to be designed to be with an FSS component, if you know what that is, that's a family self-sufficiency, to get the family to try to become more sufficient and to provide for themselves. That's the ultimate goal. However, we recognize that there may be some individuals that will not have that ability or may not be able to maintain self-sufficiency, so therefore they may be rolled over. But the design is to, yes, to get them the assistance for a temporary period of time to where they become self-sustainable.
Okay, or roll them over into the
That's
federal
correct.
program, and that frees up more of this funding to get
That's
more people
correct.
in that have, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to clarify that the program is designed to have people on for no more than 2 years. So to your point, if there's a way, there are people, it's almost like a transitional type of supplement to Section 8, whereas you can bring somebody on and they have a separate type of priority like you would have in your wait list. And then as Mr. Paradis had said, they would sort of go into the Section 8 or public housing program. So I just wanted to clarify that point. And also to Madam Chairman, your comment about income. The regulations stipulate that 90%, pretty much almost everyone who goes through this program has to be at 60% AMI or below. So by regulation, TBRA must assist those at very low and extremely low incomes.
I have one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
How then, explain to me, like, the oversight of the living conditions that these apartments or landlords might be providing to these people?
Okay, it's going to be in the market units. So the landlord may not be providing the oversight, but we recognize that these families are going to need more care than our normal voucher holders, and so therefore we're going to build it into case management that at least once a month we'll have a caseworker out at their house reviewing their circumstances, looking at seeing if they're becoming self-sufficient, are they working on their goals, are they working on and making progress towards that.
No, I'm talking more about for the oversight of the landlords, that we don't have people living in horrible conditions.
Oh, yes, ma'am. We do an inspection prior to the tenant moving in, and any unit that's on the program would have to meet what HUD calls the housing quality standards, the HQS standards, minimum HQS standards, to get a pass rating on their inspection, and then at least annually thereafter.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I think we're good. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Next up is Community Bridges, tenant-based rental assistance.
Good evening, folks.
Hi. Hello.
My name's Karen Kurtz, and I am the grants consultant for Community Bridges, and this is Ann Johnston, who is our Associate Director of Housing and Community Integration. So, tenant-based rental assistance. I spoke to you last week. We have that housing navigator. This is the other piece of that housing navigator. So if you got a housing navigator, you got to have money for housing. And so what this application does is create that pot of money that we go, and as we're working with folks, we get them housed. We can pay rent out of here, we're paying deposits out of here, and we're also paying, we contract with an organization called Home Inc., which is in Phoenix. We've had a long-term relationship with them. They do all of the housing management type functions, so they do a housing orientation, they're doing income certification, they're doing the HQS inspections. They have lots of relations. They have a whole database of landlords that they work with that will house the clientele that we work with. We have many projects with them because of our HUD funding and some of our other projects. I talked about the Navigator last time. I want to address some of these comments that are in here. First of all, is this a new program for the agency? No. We have this program right now with the City of Mesa. We are in the second of our 2-year contracts with them, and we just submitted an application for next year for another 2-year contract of TBRA funding. Right now, just to give you an idea, so with that particular program, we target folks that are medically vulnerable or just generally more vulnerable, that maybe they're not on the top of the list for the continuum of care, the by name list, but we can serve them. So, for example, we have 22 people in that housing right now, 19 households. About 77% of them are chronically homeless. 77% also have one or more disabling conditions. About 50% of them have 3 or more disabling conditions. Plus, there tend to be an older population. So 36% of the people we have right now are 62 or older, and then about 64% of them are 55 or over. So we targeted it that way it wasn't just whoever we can get them in housing. We're trying to serve those people that are vulnerable on the streets and trying to address some of that that's going on. Minimum funding is acceptable, full funding, okay. So some of this sounds like we're really hard here, but the reality is we're a behavioral health agency, so 90% of our revenue comes from our behavioral health encounters that we bill against. These aren't eligible services, so we have to get grant funds to do that. It's a match for our mission because we find that when people get housed, we can help them take better care of their health care, and so their health status improves, and they also use less. They're using the crisis system less, they're using hospitals less, they're using the police and fire departments less, so it tends to be a savings for the whole system if we can put those things and match those things up together. We are, let's see, what else does it say? It appears requires full funding of both applications or nothing. I think that with this, especially with the TBRA money, because it's the first year, so we know a caseload for a navigator is about 15 to 20 people. The first year, we're not going to have 15 people housed on day one, okay? So we're probably going to spend less money, but you want to make sure we have enough money to house 15 people, otherwise the cost effectiveness for the navigator is not there. The other issue that we run into, most of our contracts are 2-year contracts, and if we have to have money, if you don't renew the contract, we have to have enough money to house have time to move those people out. We don't want to return them to homelessness and re-traumatize them. So it's a little bit of a tricky juggling act to make sure we have the flow of funds to continue paying for that housing. And I'll answer any questions that you have with this since my time is up.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions? So I have just one question only. Yeah. So we say a partnership with someone. Let's say you got and it's all or nothing. Either that has to go with this one, the other navigator one that we talked last week. So if you got the navigator funding, could you not partner with another rent one? Or it's like you said in the thing.
Yeah, and I saw that comment in here was interesting that I hadn't noticed it before that the city's TBRA application is similar in scope and activity. So we were talking about that in the seats. And it would work, potentially it could work if we have some agreements that we've got to make sure that once we house somebody, those funds are committed, because as I said, we do not have a pot of money for housing.
Right.
So, and we don't want to re-traumatize people by making them homeless again. Right. So yeah, that could potentially work where we would be providing the services and somebody else would manage that rent assistance. So I think that is potentially feasible. We just have to be able to come to agreement and make sure that everybody's bases are covered with that.
And right, and I hear you're excelling at the behavioral health part of it. That is an important component.
Right.
But we don't always excel at every part. So maybe the funding of the housing thing is one area. So partnership is important, I think, for everybody.
Well, our relationship with Home Inc., they are top-notch in the agency. I don't know if you're familiar with them at all, but we can give you some information on them as well. But they're top-notch. We also have one of the other pieces that's really important is one of the first things we do when we get somebody housed is we get them on the Section 8 waiting list in Mesa, and we get them on any project-based housing waiting list, because we think of this as like a medium to long-term bridge, but as this gentleman said, it's 2 years max. And so, sometimes we've been able to get continuations if somebody's very close to the top on the Section 8 waiting list, for example. The city will grant us an extension to get that person into Section 8. And staff meets with the Section 8 person in Mesa probably weekly to see where our people are, because we want to move them out and move somebody else in to that unit. So we've gotten a pretty good track record of managing the housing, not just for TBRA, but we have permanent supportive housing units as well. About 190 folks we have housed through that, which is all scattered site rentals as well. But yeah, we would certainly be open to a partnership with somebody in terms of managing that housing piece, as long as we can make sure that the bases are covered to pay for that housing.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. I think we're good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're at the bottom of our list of presenters, unless we can come back to the City of Glendale Parks and Recreation Special Events people, if someone's here. And if they're not, okay. Any other questions or comments from the committee? Okay. The next meeting is of the Cdac will be held tomorrow, January 16th at 6:30 p.m. In conference room B3. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Oh, you all of a sudden showed up.
You're weird. So move.
Motion's been made in second. All those in favor of adjourning? Aye. All those opposed? Motion's been made and carried and passed. Meeting's adjourned. Sorry.